They say every quiet street hides a story, sometimes whispered behind curtains, sometimes buried under polite smiles. In Redwood Valley, everything looked perfect from the outside. Trimmed hedges, bright porches, friendly waves. But perfection is often a mask. And behind that mask, fear and prejudice can fester unnoticed. When Malik Reynolds moved into this picture-perfect neighborhood, he wasn't chasing trouble. He was chasing peace, a place to finally breathe after years of hard work. But sometimes you don't have to pick a fight for it to find you. And sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists or fury. They're fought with truth, patience, and the unwavering belief that you deserve to stand where you are. This is not just a story about a man protecting his home. It's about protecting his right to belong and about what happens when the lies we tell ourselves come crashing down. Redwood Valley looked like something out of a postcard. Manicured lawns, pastel-painted fences, and a hush that whispered of old money and older secrets. When Malik Reynolds first pulled into the tree-lined street in his gray Tesla, he felt the tightness in the air. A few neighbors peeked from their windows. Some offered stiff nods. Others just watched. He was used to it. Growing up, Malik had learned to read a neighborhood's real temperature faster than any thermostat could. And despite the glossy smiles and neighborhood BBQ flyers taped to the mailboxes, he could feel it. He didn't belong. At least, not in their eyes, still. He hadn't come to Redwood Valley to fit into anyone's mold. He had worked hard for everything he had. Long nights, coding countless setbacks. The endless grind no one wanted to see behind success. This house, this quiet street, this chance to build a life, he had earned it. But not everyone agreed, especially not Linda Draper. Linda was the unofficial queen of Redwood Valley. Not through any formal title, but through sheer willpower and whispered conversations. She was the kind of woman who spoke sweetly at HOA meetings and sharpened her knives at home. From the moment Malik moved in, Linda's eyes were on him. At first, it was just the occasional glance from across the street. Then it became daily observations, noting when he left for work, when he returned, who visited him. In her mind, it wasn't racism. It was protecting the neighborhood, and that belief made her dangerous. Malik tried to ignore the creeping feeling that someone was always watching. He buried himself in work, in unpacking, in building his herb garden out back. But small things started nagging at him. The faint scent of unfamiliar perfume when he entered his home. A kitchen drawer left slightly ajar. Mail that looked shuffled, not the way he left it. Passwords needing resets he never requested. At first he thought maybe he was just stressed, paranoid from too many long nights. Maybe he had forgotten closing the drawer. Maybe he was imagining the scent, but deep down he knew better. One evening, as he stood on his porch watching the sunset bleed across the hills, he caught a glimpse of Linda behind her curtain camera raised. The curtain snapped shut the moment their eyes met. Something twisted deep in Malik's gut. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was invasion. The next morning, Malik visited a hardware store across town somewhere. Linda wouldn't think to check. He purchased a brand new digital lock system with encrypted access logs and a hidden security camera kit. When he returned, he installed everything himself. Every screw and wire a promise. I will not be easy prey. Linda Draper didn't know it yet, but the game she thought she was winning was about to turn against her. And Malik Reynolds wasn't just fighting for his home anymore. He was fighting for the right to exist without fear in the one place that was supposed to be safe. It didn't take long for Linda Draper to realize something had changed. The usual patterns, the easy comings and goings of Malik's day, were disrupted. No more casually unlocked doors. No more obvious vulnerabilities. Something about it made her itch. For days she sat by her window, watching seething. She had spent weeks weaving a narrative about Malik in her mind. A story where she was the hero protecting the neighborhood from a hidden threat. And now, her threat had dared to outsmart her. Unacceptable when she saw Malik installing a new smart lock. Linda snapped. She marched across the street, clipboard in hand, a few of her HOA loyalists in tow. It wasn't just nosiness anymore. It was about control, about power slipping through her fingers. Standing on Malik's porch, she banged on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Malik opened it, calm, composed, wearing a plain gray t-shirt, and the kind of look that said, "I expected this." "You need to explain yourself," Linda barked, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. "Explain. Changing my own locks," Malik said, tilting his head slightly. "Pretty sure that's legal in this country," Linda huffed. "This is a community, Mr. Reynolds. We have standards, we have rules. We can't have people altering security measures without HOA approval." Behind her, a few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. They hadn't expected her to be quite so aggressive. Malik smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of the mouth that didn't quite reach his eyes. "If you're concerned about safety, Linda," he said coolly, "maybe you should worry less about my locks and more about who's been breaking into homes around here." Linda stiffened. "You have no proof." Malik didn't answer. He didn't have to. Instead, he reached for his phone and with a few quick taps, connected it to the small outdoor speaker by his door. A video began to play, grainy black and white footage from the hidden camera. There she was, Linda Draper, walking up to his door, unlocking it with a stolen key, slipping inside, with the stealth of a practiced criminal. Gasps broke out from the small gathering of neighbors. One man instinctively stepped back from Linda, as if her shame might be contagious. Linda's face drained of color. This is fake," she spluttered. "No," Malik said softly, stepping out onto the porch, towering over her. "It's time for the truth, Linda." And with that, he pressed another button. On the screen flashed a digital record, multiple unauthorized access attempts traced to Linda's home, Wi-Fi IP address, matching the times she had entered. "Still think it's fake?" Malik asked. Linda's eyes darted around desperately, searching for allies, but the crowd had already begun to thin. Neighbors who once politely ignored Malik's presence now looked at Linda with something between disgust and horror. "You can't do this," Linda whispered, her voice cracking. "You think you can just humiliate me, turn everyone against me." Malik held her gaze steady, firm. "I didn't turn anyone against you, Linda. You did that all by yourself." The sirens broke the stillness of Redwood Valley like a hammer shattering glass. Within minutes, 2 squad cars pulled up to Malik's house. Lights flashing, radios. Crackling, Linda Draper tried to compose herself, straightening her blouse, plastering on a brittle smile. She was still clinging to the idea that she could talk her way out of this, that her standing in the community would shield her. But that protection had already crumbled. 2 officers approached. One, a tall, broad-shouldered woman, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we've received a formal complaint backed by video evidence," she said crisply. "You're accused of illegal entry, harassment, and misuse of personal data." Linda laughed, a sound high-pitched and desperate. "This is a misunderstanding. I was only trying to protect the neighborhood." The officer's face didn't change. "By unlawfully entering someone's home. By stalking your neighbor." Linda's mouth opened to respond, but no words came out. Meanwhile, the second officer turned to Malik. "Mr. Reynolds, would you like to formally press charges?" Malik looked at Linda for a long moment. He saw the panic behind her eyes, the unraveling threads of a woman who had built her identity on control and who was now watching it slip away. He thought of how easy it would be to let rage drive him, to humiliate her the way she had tried to humiliate him, but instead he spoke calmly. "I'm pressing charges," Malik said simply. "And I'll be requesting a protective order, not just for myself, for the sake of anyone else she decides doesn't belong." The officers nodded. They moved efficiently, reading Linda, her rights as they cuffed her hands behind her back. Linda didn't struggle. She just sagged under the weight of it. A queen without a throne. As the squad car pulled away, a few neighbors stood on their porches watching silently. No one waved. No one protested. For once, Redwood Valley wasn't rallying around appearances. It was facing an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, the biggest threat comes from the ones who claim to protect you. Later that evening, Malik sat on his porch, a cup of black coffee cooling between his hands. The night was crisp. The stars spread like shards of glass across the sky. A few houses down, a small group of neighbors gathered, not to whisper, not to plot, but to talk about real change. They spoke about starting a neighborhood inclusion committee. They spoke about reviewing HOA practices. They spoke about making sure what happened to Malik never happened to anyone else. He hadn't asked for any of it. He hadn't wanted to be a symbol. He just wanted to live, to breathe. But sometimes Malik realized, standing up for yourself doesn't just protect your own peace. It creates space for others to breathe too. He leaned back in his chair, letting the cool night air wash over him. For the first time since moving here, Malik finally felt at home. Not because the houses were pretty, not because the lawns were perfect, but because, tonight, Redwood Valley had remembered what community was supposed to mean, and it started with one man who refused to be silent.